Perhaps you've heard this controversial point before. Isaiah was born in circa 740 BC, but latter chapters of the book of Isaiah contain some of God's references to Cyrus, a Persian king who died about 210 years after Isaiah was born. In fact, unless Isaiah lived to the ripe old age of 160, Isaiah died before Cyrus was even born. Of course, when Isaiah was alive, God could have easily told Isaiah what to say about a then future king. The purpose of this video is not to deny that fact. One point I do want to make is that I do not claim that Moses wrote Deuteronomy 34:5 through 12. That is the passage that talks about the death and burial of Moses. Moses did write the Torah, Genesis through Deuteronomy, but I don't claim that Moses wrote Deuteronomy 34:5 through 12. That kind of thing does not bother me at all, but some Christians seem to resist it for some reason. Another point about Genesis through Deuteronomy is that there are many third-person references to Moses. That looks like editing. I'm bringing that point up because the book of Isaiah has third-person references to Isaiah and first-person references to Isaiah. Those third-person references make it look like some of the writings of Isaiah may have been edited, perhaps after Isaiah died. Now, here is the traditional controversy. Some people say Isaiah wrote the first 39 chapters of Isaiah, and then somebody else wrote the remaining chapters. The people who make that claim seem to be totally stuck on a magical dividing line between Isaiah chapter 39 and Isaiah chapter 40. This video actually avoids that mindset. Remember those third-person references that I mentioned? Those are in Isaiah chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 7, chapter 20, chapter 37, chapter 38, and chapter 39 before chapter 40. And so you see why I'm not interested in a magical dividing line between chapter 39 and chapter 40. I do think that the book of Isaiah contains some ancient editing, but I'm not going to try to force you to believe that. If the scriptures do contain some ancient editing, that is no problem to me. But perhaps you've met some Christians who are not at all open to the idea of editing in scripture. Some people might even insist that Moses wrote about his own death and funeral. And one point I'm making in this video is that we do not have all the answers. If some prophet other than Isaiah did write some things in latter chapters of Isaiah, things about Cyrus, the king of Persia, then we'll never be able to prove or disprove that. If the Bible revealed that all 66 chapters were written by Isaiah, then we would have that scriptural revelation to stand on, but there is no such revelation. And yet, nothing in the Bible actually denies that some things in some latter chapters were written by some prophet after Isaiah died. One way or the other, we have no scriptural indication of who wrote the latter chapters of Isaiah. And what is so interesting about chapter 40 through chapter 66 is the fact that God is the speaker in many verses. You know this is about God. It's comforting to hear God speaking in those chapters of Isaiah. As for some latter chapters containing some references to Cyrus, I don't know if God anointed Isaiah to do that before Cyrus was even born, or if God anointed some unidentified prophet to do that after Isaiah died. So the idea of some ancient editing in scripture does not bother me. Maybe you don't like it, maybe you don't believe it, but remember the death and burial of Moses in Deuteronomy 34, and remember those third-person references to Moses and Isaiah. So here's what I think. Some chapters prior to Isaiah chapter 40 have some ancient editing. I do not see a magical dividing line between Isaiah chapter 39 and Isaiah chapter 40. Some chapters before chapter 40 have some third-person references to Isaiah. That looks like ancient editing. And with God speaking so much in chapter 40 onward, listen to those words of God. And the references in some latter chapters to Cyrus, king of Persia, we cannot prove that God did not anoint Isaiah to write about a then future king. If some latter chapters were written by an unidentified prophet after Isaiah died, then so it is, but we'll never prove it or disprove it. And there is the chance that Isaiah lived to be 160 years old and wrote all 66 chapters, some having edits. I just don't know where in Scripture it says how long Isaiah lived. So tell me if you think I'm evil for thinking that some Scripture has some ancient editing. Like or dislike the video, and share it if you think it'll help somebody.